This is the Innovation Conversation. How you doing, Tom?
Good, Kevin. How are you this morning?
Doing great, doing great. So I want to talk to you a little bit about AI. It was interesting to me last week when the Amazon came out with its numbers that a number of the publications out there, Wall Street Journal, New York Times, The Information, really focused on the fact that Amazon is trying to correct any impression people might have that it's not being aggressive about AI. Um, and I think I wondered if part of that was because AWS is not showing the growth it used to show, although still significant growth. Um, but it is clearly fighting a little bit of a PR war, which is a little surprising for Amazon because usually they just kind of do what they're going to do and not worry about other companies. But in this case, there seems to be something else going on here. I just wondered if you had the same reaction to it.
Oh, no doubt. I mean, the last two earnings calls, Andy Jassy, the CEO, was on, and in both calls, he talked about, their three-layered AI strategy. Um, and, I think, and Amazon calls it, we're in a hype cycle right now for AI. And Amazon's been doing, again, I did it back when I was there. So 20 years, you know, from 20 years ago, well through now, lots they're doing in and around AI. This is not new to them. But I think given both investor interest in the space, right, and how you're doing as a cloud provider, how you're doing in AI, really in any business, right, is asked by their investors, what are we doing with AI? And, but for Amazon as an offerer of a cloud, of the cloud and services in the cloud, it's key. And then, also for customers, right? For customers of the cloud, it's important that they hear the strategy.
Yeah.
And, I think Amazon has a pretty robust strategy. I don't know if you're familiar with the three layers. Basically, I mean, it simplistically, it is there's a base computer, the horse that processes, this massive information. Uh, uh, there's then the kind of the foundational model, right? So we have the
Right.
computing power, and then sitting on leveraging the computing power is these large language models that that customers can use to develop their own AI, right, and their own AI, uh, uh, their own AI models. And that layer is key because somebody like cloud provider like Amazon can provide the sophistication and horsepower of the model while allowing customers to keep their data separate,
Right.
right? So you get the advantage of that, but then you get to to maintain the confidentiality of your own data. And then there's the application layer, right? The layer on which capabilities, the capabilities themselves, right? So it could be developer tools, could be things with Alexa. It could be like in Amazon's case, they have their new image generator, right? You can upload a picture of a toaster and ask for it to be, in a kitchen setting,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then that'll be on the counter in the kitchen, that'll all be AI generated. So, lots of kind of apps that sit and leverage the foundational models that, of course, benefit from the computing horsepower.
The degree to which it can make these kind of AI tools available to third-party vendors via its marketplace, right? That would strike me as being also a really strong story to be telling right now to the FTC, right? Because the FTC is basically saying, oh, you're taking advantage of all these vendors. And if Amazon can say, oh, no, we're trading this technology and it's available to them and they can be more successful than they've ever been before because of it, that's a story they need to tell.
Well, I think it emphasizes or further illustrates their position all along
Right.
that they're providing these sellers a great opportunity to go to market in a way that they couldn't afford to do on their own, through taking advantage of Amazon's platform, their logistics services,
Right.
AI capabilities, and whatnot. Yeah, these companies couldn't afford to do on their own.
It's interesting. We're sort of, I don't know, I don't think we've reached a tipping point yet by any means, but there's obviously a lot of conversation going on here. I mean, this week the Biden administration is bringing out new federal regulations about AI development. Now, I think it only is going to only really applies for the moment to companies that do business with the federal government, but that's almost everybody of any size. and they just basically want to protect consumers, but they also want to make sure people are not using AI to build bombs, which I'll vote for that. That sounds like a pretty good idea to me.
Yeah.
There's and the companies, I mean, whether it's Google or Meta, whoever, a lot of them are saying, oh no, we think we need regulation about AI. I'm a little skeptical. I think they'd rather be in a position of calling for regulation of AI as opposed to actually dealing with regulation. But that's okay. Everybody's playing the perception game. But I guess one of the things I want to say is retailers now are going to, I think, are going to be dealing with a lot more companies coming to them saying that AI is integrated into whatever the solutions happen to be, right? I mean, I've found that I'm in the middle of trying to sort of curate the National Grocers Association Technology Innovation Track for 2024, similar to what I did in 2023. And in 2023, we had a whole track explaining AI. And now next year, I'm not even going to bother with that because AI is integrated into everything. So I guess the question I want to ask you is, what are the questions retailers should be asking of their vendors, their suppliers, who have AI integrated in whatever they happen to be doing? What do these retailers need to know that will allow them to ask the right questions?
Yeah, I think it's definitely really important. I think they should ask, just in plain in plain words, and expect an answer in kind of plain language back. How are you using AI today in your solution, right? And what does that enable over, what if it wasn't using AI?
Right.
And I would say that almost any provider that says they're not using AI at all, don't have any plans to, I wouldn't say run the other way, but understand why not.
Right.
Maybe there's a reason. Maybe it's just such a basic capability that, for some reason AI, at least in the foreseeable future, wouldn't make a difference. But you really want to know, how are you using AI today? How do you think about AI? Like, what philosophically, what does AI bring you, tech provider, in this solution? What does it bring me, as a purchaser of this solution? What does it bring my customers, that may be using the solution? What does it bring them today? And where do you see that going? I don't think you're going to find a provider that's going to have a really detailed long-term roadmap for AI, just given the nature of how dynamic it is and how fast it moves. But you should at least have a philosophical approach from them about how they're going to, further use AI, in the application. And
Yeah, I
then,
mean, you can't project too far out because we have no idea what I mean, it seems to be geometrically expanding in terms of or faster.
yeah, well, by design, right? By design, the system teaches itself constantly to be smarter, and it constantly optimizes itself. So you will have a geometric, effect of that. And then, I would ask about data, right? How have you developed your model? What data is your model based on? How will you use my and my customers' data, in rendering this service, right? Is my data going to be, and my customers' data going to be walled off, from other retailers? It's going to be walled off, from, other ways to be used that are kind of outside the bounds of what should be considered, a reasonable level of privacy, in today's world.
I mean, I mean, as I understand it, and my understanding is very rudimentary, though. I mean, this should allow people to, a lot faster than in the past, see what promotions are generating a response, which ones are not. When is there time, right? In the case of your auto replenishment business, it should allow you to respond much more quickly in figuring out what items are going to be effective in terms of auto replen. It should be able to figure out, who's shopping when, what are they buying on different days, and so that so retailers can customize their offerings in different kinds of ways.
No
Although
doubt.
it seems to me, right? I mean, that's all. I mean, that's all pretty basic, but AI should allow companies to do this much more quickly and much more granularly, right?
Yes.
Right.
Yes. And ultimately, then, if that's the case, it should be more effective.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And it's like hyper personalization, right? It's what a customer needs or may need when they need or may need it, you know, delivered from that retailer or that to kind of help them
Right.
with that, because it ultimately is still all going to come down to being helpful to the customer,
Right.
right? If customers are feeling exploited, if they feel like it's just more noise being created by these capabilities, if they're not able to make better purchase decisions, shop faster, find discover more products and solutions, than they could before, then they're not going to benefit from that. And I think it's going to be harder to be successful.
Right.
I was, you hear, it's just this whole concept of targeting customers. Like I don't like that word, right? Because it's like you're aiming at them and
Right.
you're targeting them, you're hitting them with something, versus you're assisting them. And I just think that there's a whole kind of mindset, change that has to happen here, that hopefully, as we get better and better and better with AI, we can become a lot more effective at that. It becomes more of a support and assistance,
Sure.
versus a target.
Yes, you can target somebody, or you can create an offering that's both relevant and resonant to them. And by the way, you're showing your Amazon colors there, right? Because it's the difference between selling and making it easier for people to buy stuff. I mean, that's right. It's in the DNA.
100%.
And also,
Absolutely.
but tell me if I'm right about this, which is, as I was kind of trying to think this through, thinking that everything we always talk about, right, is that AI should, like everything you do these days, it should allow you to be closer to the shopper, right? And in doing so, it should help you anticipate, help you understand the customer's needs and the customer's patterns.
Yep.
But where the human factor comes into it is kind of understanding aspirations and wants, right? AI can help you figure out needs based on past behavior, but it does take a human being to sort of figure. I mean, to some degree, I suppose AI can project, but a smart person, right, who's able to sort of look at this stuff and anticipate and say, no, because I'm human, I know what other humans are aspiring to, right? That's what is the difference, right? It doesn't replace the human factor, but it allows the human who's dealing with the data to be more intuitive and even be more creative going forward.
Yeah, it should enhance the human factor, right? It's both going to help me as a store associate, or just anybody serving a customer. It's going to help me be better.
Right.
It's going to help me be more relevant to what you're looking for. It's going to help me be faster. It's going to help me be more accurate, in what I do. And then also, while it's supporting me, I am also supporting it by me being a human and reading the human interaction and understand the human aspiration, helping to direct you toward that solution. Where you land with what you choose ultimately is fed back into the system.
Right.
So it does get smarter. So the system helps humans, but the humans also help the system,
Right.
and
I mean,
that's really
yeah.
powerful.
Yeah. I mean, I was trying to think of it in terms of even morning newsbeat. Like, I mean, I hope we don't get to the point where AI can replace
No.
beat, but I mean, but at the end of the day, it might be able to help me choose stories.
Mhm.
But I always, but it's never going to be. I hope never going to be able to do the commentary that I do, and also wouldn't choose necessarily the offbeat stories, like the story I had on Monday of this week about the Parisian hairdresser who created salons for women with curly hair because they didn't exist in Paris. Like,
Yeah.
I think that's a really interesting story. It's relevant actually to how readers ought to think about their businesses, but AI would never choose that, right? Because it didn't
No.
have.
Well, I don't know.
Maybe it will. In which case, I'm in bigger
Maybe
trouble
it
than I
could.
think.
But you could also use AI to help you find, right?
Right,
Like you could have an AI assistant that gets to know you,
right.
gets to know what you find interesting, what you find relevant to your readers, and actually could cast a way wider net than you could cast.
Yeah,
And then they could bring you back 10 stories,
right.
from which you choose.
I don't know. That makes me nervous.
Count it out. You'll never be replaced, Kevin.
Yeah. Well, although maybe what I'll do when I retire, I'll just create an AI Kevin and an AI content guy, and he can do all the work, and nobody will even know.
You can just receive royalties.
All right. On that note, thank you so much. I hope you have a good couple of weeks, and I will talk to you soon.
Sounds great. Have a good one, Kevin. Have a good one,
Take
everyone.
care.